So here we go. Last news story is from VGC, written by Andy Robinson. PlayStation says it's planning to release more family games like Astrobot. Speaking during an earnings call on Thursday, Sony President Hiroki Totoki highlighted the Team Asobi platformer's recent award success and said that it validated its intentions to expand its family offerings in the future. At the Game Awards 2024, our first-party title Astrobot won 4 categories, including Game of the Year and Best Family Game, the most of any title, he said. In addition, the live service game Helldivers 2, which was released in February last year, won Best Ongoing Game and Best Multiplayer Game awards. The fact that titles and genres we are planning to expand in the future, including titles for families and live service games, have received these awards is a major stride towards building a broad title portfolio. Astrobot has been a critical hit for PlayStation in a genre it's less frequently targeted in the modern era. Astrobot won Game of the Year at the Game Awards, Game of the Year at New York Game Awards, and earned numerous outlet accolades, including VGC's Game of the Year award. According to Sony, the title sold 1.5 million units in its first 9 weeks, a significant chunk of which was to new players. In Europe, Astrobot is said to have outperformed virtually any non-Super Mario new 3D platforming game released in the last decade. Commenting on the game around its launch, PlayStation Studio boss Herman Hulst claimed the Astrobot IP was a very, very important brand for PlayStation going forward. Astro is very, very important to PlayStation, he said. Obviously, we had the pre-install with the PS5 that millions have embraced and loved, and I think that's becoming a little bit of a platform to launch this new game now. It's remarkable that a very small team is able to deliver a game that is so big. It's really become a great game in itself, and it's become a celebration of everything PlayStation at this point. So, very interesting future possibly ahead for PlayStation, as they're not really known as, at least in the modern era as like the family-friendly gaming console. Back in the day, they had a lot more like mascot games to Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, stuff like that, but not so much recently. And it could be taking a turn, which I'm stoked by. I'm so excited about that aspect. More kids, more games for my kids to play. My son, he's 7. He loves Astrobot. I've had him start playing through the first one that came free on the console, and that's like one of his favorite games on the PlayStation. He plays it all the time. But I thought actually, Patrick had mentioned earlier, it'd be fun to chat about this because, as you mentioned before the show, like this is generally Nintendo's wheelhouse, and PlayStation's kind of looking to get into that. So yeah, I don't know. What are some of your guys' thoughts on PlayStation? You think that's is this good? Is this bad? Is this a threat to Nintendo? I don't know.
I mean, I think it's good. That. PlayStation developed such a like specific brand over the course of like the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4 generation of this like gritty, grown up, but like, grown up in a very like 14-year-old boy kind of way. Third person action narrative focused game. And like that's sort of just been like their prestige brand for a while now. And like, I like a lot of those games. I'm a big fan of the Uncharted series. I like God of War. I like Last of Us. But like, those are such like, I don't know. They feel like solitary or like dour experiences, even the ones that are like based on fun. And like, part of the reason that Mark and I do a show about Nintendo is that we're just like drawn to these brands that are like more fun and interesting and like a little bit weird and colorful, and it would be nice to see another big like stakeholder in the video game space chasing after that kind of game and that kind of audience. You say that Astrobot is like one of your son's favorite PlayStation games. Hey, me too. The Astrobot is great. Astro's Playroom was awesome, and I would kill for them to have more games like that. I can't get in always to like a new Horizon Zero Dawn or whatever, but like a fun, cool platformer with colorful characters and stuff, I'm there every time.
Yeah, I think for the longest time, Nintendo and Sony have kind of been, like there is crossover in the audience for sure, especially you don't have a system as successful as the Switch without there being a like crossover and audience between the two. But I would say that, for the most part, they haven't treated themselves as each other as competition. Whereas like Xbox and Microsoft are really going for the same audience. And I think Nintendo, I think it'll be good if there is competition in that space. I think it'll drive a lot of, like innovation in a way where like, like Nintendo really hasn't had to compete very much for that like family audience. I also think for PlayStation, it is like, he was talking about how, hey, it's remarkable that a small team like this was able to do this. One of the driving problems for both Sony and Microsoft is how expensive these kind of like prestige cinematic, narrative games are, how expensive they've become to produce. Whereas something like Astrobot was able to be created with a much smaller team with a, like much more reasonable budget, presumably. And so that opens like up a whole new opportunity for Sony that they've kind of been neglecting. And so I think that will make it, it'll make it really interesting. I will say, however, that because it's not Sony's bread and butter, I can absolutely see them abandoning this strategy if it does not pay dividends, right? Like Astrobot being successful is one thing, but creating multiple, family hits in that same vein that isn't just that single franchise, like that's another thing. And so just like we've seen, they mentioned live service. So funny for them to be talking about live service when they've, been having some of these big misses that have been very costly. And have been canceling
a bunch of the ones that aren't even out yet. They're just like, nah,
exactly,
never mind.
yeah. It's made them
or canceling one that they just put out.
Yeah, it's made them rethink their strategy. Now, of course, probably the cost of like a miss on a family game of the scale of Astrobot is different from the miss of Concord. The financial hit they take. But I do think this is a now strategy, but we'll see how it actually pans out for them. Because I do feel like we've kind of been here before in the PS3 era with Little Big Planet, and they went all in on Sackboy and all that stuff, and they weren't really able to turn it into anything else. But it also wasn't the driving strategy. So I don't know. I think it's good news for everybody, and it'll be really interesting to see how it evolves over the next few years.
Yeah, well, it's actually commit to it, because that's my biggest fear. And you kind of brought it up, is like they are so quick to just abandon ship, or they half-ass something and then they're like, well, why didn't it work? It's like, well, because there was so much heart and soul in Astrobot or whatever, and then they're like, let's make another family game, and then there's like, let's throw some random team who doesn't really care, doesn't normally do that. It's just like, then it fails, and they're like, wow, this doesn't work. It's like, well, try, all right. I don't know. That's my biggest fear with PlayStation recently is you get this teams that kill it and really try and really love it, and then you get these other ones that are just like, wait, why are they working on that? Like, what's going on here? Like, why? I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, you can look to the live service games. You can look to PSVR 2. You can look to the Vita, like all of these things in the last 15 years that they like introduce support a little bit, and then are like, meh, that's not really what we do. I do think it's also Garrett, did you have the total sales numbers for Astrobot, like how well it sold?
It didn't say in the article, but I can Google it real quick. I can take a look. Okay.
Because it's just like, it's important to keep in mind like the scale of these successes. Because Spider-Man on PlayStation 4 sold like 22 million copies. It's that's a scale of success that Astrobot's not even going to ever come like anywhere near, right? Or I mean, maybe someday, but currently, its numbers are way lower than something like a mega success like that. I just don't think it's successful enough to be like the change the standard for what PlayStation is putting their money behind.
So the only number I can find is as of November they sold the 1.5 million units. So basically that's the last number they announced. It was 1.5 million units, making over 100 million in revenue from a 65-person team over 3 years. So, but that's, they didn't really, I'm sure they've made more sales, but so it's not putting out, quite as big numbers as like Spider-Man and some of these other big ones are, they're putting like 3,
maybe an unfair comparison. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, nothing to shake a stick at,
Right.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I don't have much more to say about it, but I am interested in this. I hope they actually try with this initiative and don't just like let it kind of like fall away and I don't know, turn into another failure that in their failure belt, another notch in the belt, of stuff they've given up on.
Garrett, do you have a PlayStation game or game series that you would want to see them revisit with a family focus?
Like for family focus? Man, I would love for them to go back to. Spyro I always loved. Like when they did even a couple years ago, they did like the remastered stuff. Like that was a blast to kind of like revisit those old classics. I love the Spyro series. I know they got a lot out of that, even in more recent years, because they did like Skylanders and stuff like that. But I don't know, keep on doing high quality like Spyro stuff would be great. Sly Cooper, I think, is severely underrated and hasn't been around in a long time. If they brought back like Sly Cooper games, that would be awesome. Which, I mean, listeners of our show know I haven't played, but like everyone I know has played it and loves it. And so that's even more the reason, like, I would love them to keep making more. And like, okay, I could jump in and try this series that, I haven't been able to experience before. I want to say Crash Bandicoot, but of course that's owned by Xbox now. So that's not going to happen, which is weird to think about. I don't know. They were just more adventurous though with their family stuff. Like I feel like, I don't know, my memories, I guess, of more family friendly games as a kid wasn't even first party PlayStation games. Like, I don't know, it was always like the weird like movie license, like Disney license things and stuff like that, or third party stuff. But not as many game studios are doing stuff like that. So if it means like, okay, in order to solve that problem, it's has to be first party game studios doing it, then I don't know, I'm all about it. Get in there and do it.
Yeah. Mark, did you have one?
I was struggling to think of any. Like, I've never played any of the Sly Cooper games. I didn't own a PlayStation console until the PS3 era, so a lot of, by that time, they were out of the business, it seems like, other than Ratchet and Clank. That's the one that I have played a couple of those games, and they're awesome, but they're definitely not on the scale of like an Astrobot, right? Like, I think they're much bigger games than that. But other than that, I struggle to think of any since the PlayStation 3 era outside of like Little Big Planet, any like family titles from them.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I mean, even like before we knew what Naughty Dog was working on, that was like me and Adrian talked about, like, man, bring back Jak and Daxter. Like the Jak and Daxter series was so great, so fun. I mean, they've told a story, they had multiple games, like, but still, like, I don't know, like, even if it's not Jak and Daxter, just something like, I wish Naughty Dog would go back to that kind of roots. Like Naughty Dog made Crash Bandicoot originally. They did Jak and Daxter. They did like these really fun, silly games, and then they just went dark with Last of Us and Uncharted. They got so serious, and now all their games are so dark and serious and sad. I'm like, no, bring back fun Naughty Dog. Can we get fun Naughty Dog back?
That's the story with Sucker Punch too, right? That they had made the Sly Cooper games, and then we're like, no, now we do Infamous, and no, now we do the Ghost of Tsushima and Yate, which is cool, like games I'm interested in. But
I wonder if, do you remember when Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze was announced and people were so mad that that's what Retro was working on? I wonder if Naughty Dog announced like, hey, we're doing like a cartoon platformer, what the response would be. Like, would, because what Naughty Dog is now, they've been for 15 years, maybe longer. Like, I think it would be so crazy to see what the response from fans would be if they were like, all right, we're doing like a 3D platformer family game. Although I will say to me, it looks like whatever that new game that they announced not that long ago from Naughty Dog, their new IP, that seems like it is like more tongue in cheek, like a little bit more fun, more of like in the vein of Uncharted than like The Last of Us.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
totally.
I agree with that.
Totally.
And also, I don't think you can ever gauge anything by how Naughty Dog fans are reacting to the announcement of a new game, because that is always a cesspool, the worst part of humanity. So
Yes, 100%. Thank you so much for watching that clip from our podcast. Remember, if you want to watch the full episode, link will be in the description below. You can click on that and check it out. We got listener questions. We got more news segments. We got what you playing. We got a lot of fun things. So yeah, more than just the news. There's a lot more to the show that you should go check out. So remember, click that link in the description. Check out that full episode.